The Romanian Oil and Gas Employers Federation, honored to be your host today. I thank you for joining us again for today's Ministerial of the Partnership for Transatlantic Energy and Climate Cooperation, PTEC. After an enlightening first day of programming, it is my honor to welcome you back for the second day of PTEC. It is also my privilege to introduce our high-level keynote remarks to kick off the day and to further expand on the issues we will be discussing today. First of all, please welcome Mr. Cosmin Marinescu, Presidential Advisor, bringing to all of us the message from the President of Romania, His Excellency Klaus Weber Iohannis. Mr. Marinescu, the floor is yours.
Good morning and welcome to the first PTECC Ministerial in Romania. We are convinced that the most important two concepts of the current challenging times, security on the one hand and energy on the other, will merge into a single one, the energy security, as main strategic objective of today's discussions. Hosting PTECC this year, Romania hopes to bring together relevant actors, and in this context today I'm honored to deliver to you the message of the President of Romania addressed to our distinguished guests, officials and energy sector representatives from our countries. Dear Secretary Granholm, dear ministers, members of the delegations, distinguished guests, welcome to Bucharest at the 5th Ministerial of the Partnership for Transatlantic Energy and Climate Cooperation. It is a pleasure to send my message to you in the context of the PTECC reunion. I congratulate you for your important work in a field that continues to be crucial to the security and prosperity of Europe and Euro-Atlantic area. In these challenging times, building secure and resilient energy systems has never been more important, as we see the destruction caused by Russia's attacks against Ukraine's energy and civil infrastructures, but also regarding the critical urgency of climate action. In this complex energy landscape, PTECC has evolved into a partnership that proves the value-added role of transatlantic ties in devising solutions for energy diversification, energy cybersecurity, decarbonization, and economic resilience. Romania remains a strong advocate for coordinating strategic energy issues, both regionally and across the transatlantic area. Last year, I hosted the 3Cs Initiative Summit, where we focused on improving North-South strategic connections, both in terms of transport infrastructure and energy connectivity. Ladies and gentlemen, my message today is about change, competitiveness, and the need for a performing economy. It is obvious that progress cannot exist without market economy, fair competition, and business entrepreneurship. This is what we aim to do for Romania, also in the energy field and regarding the green transition. Energy has become a pathway to a better future, a cradle for innovation, and, based on recent years' legacy, a call for independence and solidarity. It is obvious that energy security and national security are inseparable. Within the last years, the energy was used by Russia as a weapon to put pressure on EU states that support Ukraine. I am proud of our response to these threats. The energy crisis was a tough test, but EU demonstrated resilience in the face of adversity. Europe embraced humanity, and this is the foundation upon which we can build a shared future. The next decades will bring the greatest industrial transformation of our times. This creates huge opportunities for like-minded partners around the world to join forces even more to invest in state-of-the-art infrastructure regarding clean energy, transport corridors, and digital connections that people can trust. The energy transition is currently a key factor for a sustainable economy. However, once the direction is set, the speed becomes the fine-tuning instrument to preserve and extend the economic competitiveness of our countries in the global context. The EU is facing now competitiveness challenges in acting as a relevant performer on the global market. In this regard, the greenest is not necessarily the strongest, and I believe this is the essential task for public policy decisions, to find the best approach for an optimal balance between green objectives and economic competitiveness. Dear guests, Romania has many valuable opportunities and the energy sector has a great potential. Romania is the third most energy independent country in the EU, and that is why we can become a real provider of energy security in Central and Southeastern Europe. During recent years, Romania has shown solidarity by providing transit and energy support to Ukraine and Moldova. The reconstruction of Ukraine and the EU accession of Moldova require resilient transportation and sustainable energy infrastructures. Having one of the lowest greenhouse gas emissions per capita in the EU, Romania supports the agreed measures meant to achieve the international and EU targets concerning reducing carbon emissions, at the same time advocating on the importance of natural gas and safe nuclear facilities for an efficient energy transition. In this context, I reaffirm Romania's ambition to develop its own nuclear energy program through enhancing the capacity of our Cernavodă nuclear power plant, but also by exploring innovative solutions such as the small modular reactors technology. Based on a decades-long experience in nuclear energy, operating Western technologies, and working closely with the United States and other like-minded partners, Romania is ready to play its part in terms of safe nuclear energy deployment and operations. Also, through the natural gas offshore projects of Romania, the Black Sea region becomes a real round table of energy diplomacy, a landmark of unity and cooperation, promoting stability and prosperity on the long run. Ladies and gentlemen, today's reunion is an inspired example of connecting public policies from our countries. I believe that the best way to favor successful change and new project opportunities is to bring business communities and policy decision makers under the same roof. I'm convinced that discussions and decisions made here will pave the way for innovative solutions in the industrial policy field to enhance the energy security, to promote the economic growth, and drive the green transition forward. I'm certain that PTCC will continue the great work done so far, striving for solidarity among European countries and close cooperation with the United States of America. Wishing you all continued success in your endeavors. I hope that you will face the future with confidence, understanding that big changes need ambitious vision and strong determination. Thank you and have a productive meeting. This was the message of the President of Romania, and allow me also to wish you a successful reunion today and all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Marinescu, for your eloquent words and also for bringing us the presidential message. I would like now to introduce His Excellency Sebastian Burduja, Romania's Minister of Energy. Mr. Burduja, please, the floor is yours.
Quite a sight. Secretary Granholm, Commissioner Simpson, ministers, Presidential Advisor Marinescu, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure and an honor to welcome you again to Bucharest. We had an amazing day yesterday with lots of success in our business forum, and this is indeed the opening of the ministerial part. I want to thank our strategic partner, the United States, the Department of Energy, and Secretary Granholm. Thank you for everything you've done to put this together. I want to thank the European Commission for always being there by our side and bringing us together, as well as all the ministers and officials and colleagues that have traveled from near and far to this city of Bucharest. It's wonderful to have you here. Of course, energy and climate have an inseparable bond, just as inseparable as the bond between the US and the EU. I think it's useful as we come here today to remind ourselves that we are all on the same team and we all seek to solve the same challenges, and often the answers we can provide together are stronger together. Now, the world is, in my opinion, more troubled today than ever before. We have hunger, we have war, we have climate change, but at the same time, I think the world is smarter than ever before. There's something called the knowledge curve that shows that basically in 1900, human knowledge doubled every century. By 1945, it was doubling every 25 years. By the 2000s, it was doubling every 3 months. And today, it's doubling every 12 hours. That is how far we've gotten. So we are a lot smarter, but are we as smart about solving today's issues? I think today, for this event, and for those that are to come, we have to ask the hardest questions. We have to ask if we can indeed pursue our common goals and set aside our differences. We have to ask if we're going to act finally for the next generation, not for the next elections. We have to ask if, when faced with adversity and unjust wars, we will stand up for values and principles and next to those who suffer and help them, or watch on the sidelines and say, there's nothing we can do. I think history shows that if we do stand on the sidelines, ultimately we also pay a very hefty price, and we can't afford that. Now, energy is at the core of our lives. It literally powers up our everyday life. It's about prosperity and standards of living. It's about economic competitiveness. It's about where we're going as the free world. And so now we do have this question, this very hard question: how are we to achieve security and competitiveness and also protect our environment? I can tell you a little bit of what Romania has done, and the first thing that we've banked on is pumping a lot of money with the help of the EU and our partners into our energy sector. And the numbers are astonishing. Over the next 3 to 5 years, we will have more than 10,000 megawatts of solar and wind energy in addition to the ones we have. We will have 3,500 megawatts in gas turbines and modernized district heating. We have invested already 1.5 billion euros in grant money in our grids, because transmission is as important as production, if not more, for the energy transition. And we are also pursuing innovation. Today marks an important milestone. The small modular reactor project in Doicești is entering a new phase. the phase of a feasibility study, at the end of which we will make a final investment decision. I'm very proud of our company, Nuclear Electrica, for spearheading this effort. I'm proud of the Romanian company Nova, that is partner in RoPower, the project company, and I'm proud of NuScale and Fluor, the American companies involved, for pursuing what could be the essential answer to solving many of our challenges. As a matter of fact, it's a beautiful metaphor, repurposing an old coal plant that came down to make way for this modern plant, modern nuclear, marvel of engineering, small modular reactors plant. And we do have, if everything goes to plan, in 2029, maybe 2030, I hope 29, we'll have the first SMR, I think in Europe, possibly in the world. We are not afraid of challenges. We embrace them. And I don't think we would trade places with anybody else in this pursuit. So, in conclusion, if we look at the history of the world and innovation and science and the energy sector, if we study the lives of great minds like Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla and many others, there's one common trait that unites them all. And indeed, I think that is courage. The courage to dream and the courage to pursue things that humanity has never done before. I think that's also something that characterizes the people in this room. You would not be here right now if you didn't have a bolder vision for the world, for a better world. And I will end by quoting Constantin Brâncuș. He's one of the most famous sculptors in the world. We're very proud of him. As he said, it's one thing to see far, it's another thing to go far. I believe we all have the capability to see far. Now it's up to us to also reach that point. Thank you very much and welcome once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. I would like now to introduce the Honorable Jennifer Granholm, U.S. Secretary of Energy, please.
Thank you so much, Minister Burduja. Just beautiful, beautiful words, and beautiful words from the President as well. So grateful for this welcome. Ambassador, all of the ministers who are here, thank you for your leadership in prioritizing this area and the issues that have been addressed, security and clean energy and climate. I think the Romanian government is really a model for clean energy development from nuclear, as you've described, to geothermal, which we'll be talking about, and beyond. So it is a pleasure to share the stage with you. I think Director General La Camera is here as well from IRENA, so glad to be able to share the stage with him as well. I want to recognize all of the panelists who appeared yesterday. As was noted, this is the second day of this forum and the official start of PTEC. Our private partners have laid out their plans to advance the energy transition, and today we're going to dive into the policies that enable those plans. But just for a moment, I want to touch on the matter of Ukraine. Because the past 900 days, Russia has killed thousands of innocent Ukrainians, devastating families and communities. And, there are the numbers, and then there are the reality on the ground. That 3-year-old Ukrainian girl, Katerina, with the pink bow, who died in the arms of her mother. The 82-year-old grandfather who was shelled while sheltering his bride of 60 years. The human toll causes us to roar with anger. What kind of evil are we dealing with here? And the deliberate targeting of civilian infrastructure, including the electric grid and the power generation itself, are designed to provoke a humanitarian crisis, designed for that purpose. But despite Putin's desire to cause us to divide, despite Putin's attempts to crush Ukraine, we are more united than ever. Together, all of us here, our global partners, and those particularly in this region. I don't know, Deputy Andruk, are you there? Deputy Minister from Ukraine. Thank you and your brave team for being with us and for your continued strength and your stellar example. We are all Ukrainians. As this conflict has laid bare, the clean energy transition is about so much more than budgets and bottom lines, not only for the people of Ukraine, but for this other foe that we have created ourselves as humans, which is climate change. That foe is attacking every corner of the world. For the mother and her daughters who were trapped in their home in floods in Slovakia, the family who lost their home in wildfires in Cyprus, for the child facing heat exhaustion as temperatures soar in Austria. Our success in this transition is a matter of life and death. Reaching net zero by 2050 is not an option. It's a necessity, an imperative, and we need to do this work, as you all know, right now, if we're going to get there. I quoted yesterday the great playwright Eugene Ionesco, who also wrote this: "We have not the time to take our time." For our part, the United States is delivering on really an unprecedented industrial strategy. I went over this a bit yesterday, but it's worth just underscoring how unique it is for us as a nation and how successful it has been to be able to do the investments in both research and development, demonstration, and deployment of clean energy technologies. And as a result of the incentives in President Biden and Vice President Harris's laws, as a result of those investments in the United States, we have seen 785 factories open up across our nation, building products for this clean energy transition in pockets of the country that had been left behind, where factories had left and closed down. And now people are seeing new life, like a phoenix rising from the ashes all over the country. And it's because this global opportunity of clean energy in this sector is ripe for us all. The investments that the private sector are making here in Romania, but in this region, the investments they are making in the United States and around the world mean that every country can take advantage of this economy, of this economic revolution, this clean energy revolution. We're also making real strides, not just on the economy and taking advantage of this new sector, but in the climate fight itself. For in the United States, by 2030, we are on pace to double the share of our electricity that is generated by clean sources, and to slash our emissions by 40%, just by virtue of the laws that were passed under the Biden-Harris administration. If you add on what states and what the private sector are doing, we are on track to slash our emissions by 50%. That is terrific. More importantly, we're on pace to prevent 18,000 deaths from air pollution, 118,000 asthma attacks, and of course, globally, the story is the same. Together, we added more than 500 gigawatts of renewable energy in 2023, setting a new record for the 22nd year in a row. People registered more than 250,000 electric vehicles every week last year, more than the annual 10 years ago. And solar and wind capacity continue to just skyrocket, on track to triple in the next decade. I mean, to put these numbers in perspective, and I appreciate the knowledge curve that you shared, Minister, but the first commercial renewable power plant was built over 100 years ago. In the next 5 years alone, the world is on track to add more renewable capacity than we have had since that plant came online. In other words, 5 years to make a century of progress. We've never had this kind of momentum or this level of investment before. But to maintain it, of course, we have to keep our foot on the accelerator. According to the IEA, we, collectively, the globe, we need to invest trillions in clean energy every year through 2030 to achieve a successful transition. We have to add or replace over 80 million kilometers of transmission and distribution infrastructure by 2040, the equivalent length of the entire existing global grid. We have to think differently about the grid infrastructure. It is akin to the transportation corridors, to the road and highway infrastructure. We need to invest in it like that piece of infrastructure so critical. And we have to seriously build out the clean energy workforce. We need 1 million electricians by the early 2030s, and that's just electricians. So these are no small tasks, but with strong Atlantic partnerships like PTEC, with continued public-private cooperation, I'm confident we can get the job done. I'm so happy about what we are announcing here with respect to the commitments we're making on nuclear energy, on geothermal, and the fact that we together, as we're here, can learn from one another. I'm so pleased that we've welcomed Iceland as a PTEC ally to help us advance geothermal development across the region. Minister Torderson, who is here with us today. Through these working groups, I know we're making strides on everything from workforce development to clean energy deployment. So, together, we're building a new clean economy on our terms. We're fighting not just for each of our countries, but for all of humanity. Because that mother trapped by floods in Slovakia is my sister, too. The family who lost their home is my family, too. The child suffering from heat exhaustion is my child, too. And yours. My 2 beloved grandchildren, Dylan and Lily, they are your grandchildren and your children, too. This crisis knows no borders. It bows to no kings, and every strike will be more deadly than the last. I'm reminded of an old proverb from tribal communities in the United States, which is, we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. Today, as we chart our path forward for a clean energy future, we decide what kind of world we will give back to Dylan and Lily and your children and your grandchildren. We cannot afford to choose wrong. Thank you.